Hello friends, welcome back to the channel and thank you for tuning in. Today I have what I would like to call an ammo comparison review part 2 / winter ammo comparison. As you will know, I live in Ohio, pretty much in the middle of Dayton and Columbus, and it's super cold here today, so I figured I'd get some couple types of ammo that I've never tried before out, get them through the chronograph and see how they do, plus couple other types of ammo that I know work well and see how they perform in cold weather. As you can see, what I have in front of me is something that looks a little bit different than I had in part 1. It's my Bergara B14r, but I've done a couple modifications to it since I did my last videos. So what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about what I've done to it, and then I'll show you the ammo and how they performed. Again, super cold today. I think it never got above 25 degrees, at least where I am, and I had the Kestrel out, and it was telling me that the wind was between 4 and 6 miles an hour, so it was pretty gusty. And to be honest with you, I was a little bit hesitant on posting these results because I know it's not indicative of how this rifle shoots, but that's the joys of having an honest channel and doing honest reviews, is you show how it performs without bias, even though this is my rifle and I'm kind of biased. But, like I said, I have an honest channel and I like to give honest reviews. So what's changed in this rifle since I first got it is the glaring difference is I put it in a Masterpiece Arms BA comp chassis. And I was a little hesitant on buying this because of the price of them, but with talking with a couple of my friends that shoot in PRS matches, they come highly recommended, so I figured what the heck, I'd give it a try. Not that performance was lacking in any way in the factory Bergara chassis, but I figured I'd just try something new and see how I like it. I wish I had bought this chassis sooner. It really is a dream to shoot. My only complaint about it, not about the chassis really, the carbon fiber barrel is really light and this chassis is fairly heavy, so it ended up being pretty buttstock heavy. But I got it out yesterday in a match and shot with it, and I didn't notice it at all. It seems very balanced when you're off of barricades from different firing positions and things like that, and to be honest with you, it was probably the most steady I've ever been in a match, so I really don't have, not really a complaint, but I didn't notice it. A lot of more experienced shooters might want to put weights on the front of it. I guess I don't really know. It's more of a shooter preference thing. But it's really comfy, performs well, and it looks nice, very solid. I'm glad I purchased it. Another thing that I've changed is the trigger. And I know I've said in my previous videos that the factory trigger was pretty nice, but I was bored a couple days and was doing some dry firing with some snap caps, and I noticed that the trigger was it was just heavy. You don't quite notice it as much when you're moving and shooting, but I was like, well, let's try that out. So I put a Trigger Tech Special in it. Now the Special, I believe, only goes down to about a pound, which is fine with me because I like to set my triggers at a pound anyway. I think the Diamond goes down to like 8 ounces or something, but if the wind's blowing funny, that's going to go off, so it's a little too light for me. But that was a good addition as well. The break is very crisp, short uptake. I mean, it's well worth the money. One more thing that I changed out on this since the previous videos is the optics. I decided to go with the Gen 2 Razor, and this one's the 2.5 through 27 by 56 model in minutes. I like to shoot minutes. That's what I'm used to. Didn't really have, sorry, the dog just fell down the steps. Didn't have a whole lot of complaints about the Strike Eagle, just some minor things here and there. Just like the turrets, they were a little bit mushy and they didn't always line up with where the mark is on the scope, which is not really that big of a deal when you're shooting to 100 yards, but when you get out further, that could change your point of impact a little bit. In its configuration now, a couple weeks ago, I was able to take it out to 500 yards, and that's using subsonic ammo. And I was doped out on the turrets and the reticle, so I don't think without using a prism, I could get it much past 500 yards without switching to supersonic ammo, and even then probably only gaining about 50 yards. But anyway, that was pretty cool to shoot that far with a 22. I kept the scope mount the same. It's made by American Defense. I don't really see any reason to change that out. They're really nice, especially for the money. You can pick those up for under $200, and it's QD, and I just really don't have any reason to switch to something like a spur mount. And one more thing I want to talk about is a couple matches ago, I tried this Silencer Co. switchback out in its short configuration just to see how it would do. It's still quiet enough to shoot where I shoot, but the accuracy was just lacking, and for whatever reason, I mean, it was throwing them all over the place. It kind of made me look like a donkey, because hits that I know I would get all day and all night, I wasn't. I mean, it was just missing them. You can watch them through the scope where the bullets are just, and he's just spraying them. So it's good for, a pistol or whatever, but if you're really looking for accuracy out of your match rifle, in my opinion, the short configuration did not work well. And I haven't tried a medium configuration. I really don't have any use to. It shoots well, and the config, I think they call it rifle optimized. It shoots just the same with it on as with it out, even though I haven't shot it too much without this can. But just kind of a little something I want to throw in there. Don't put it in short configuration if you're looking for accuracy, because it does not work well. So all that put together, I think this rifle's complete. It really does shoot well. So far, I've had this for at least north of 15,000 rounds. And I say that, and I have never ever had a single failure to extract, no feeding issues. When I get into a couple of these types of ammo today, I'll talk a little bit about what was going on with them. But it performs flawlessly. I have no issues with it, which, gives you confidence, because it's going to feed every time. And the next thing I'm going to say is probably going to piss a lot of the people off, but you get out in these matches and you see these people with voodoo rifles, and I get into arguments with people all the time on the internet about how I'll say Bergara just as good, or voodoo killer, or whatever, and that really just triggers people. Now, I say that, sure, I guess the voodoos, they might be a little bit more consistent and a little bit more accurate, but 99%, if not 100% of the people that I've talked to and shot with in real life have feeding issues with their voodoos. I don't know if it's a mag issue or what, but they always have to mess with them, and they have to put the rounds in the mag a certain way. And in my personal humble opinion, I would have a tough time spending that amount of money on something to where you have to be careful on how you load the magazines. You can't just load them up and throw them in. You get on a stage and you're like, oh crap, did I line these rounds up in the magazine the right way? And the magazines, hell, you're spending $50 per magazine on a 10-round magazine. In my opinion, I would have a tough time, having owned this rifle for as long as I have and seeing how it performs. I would have a tough time switching from this to a voodoo. And again, not knocking them. I know they're super accurate and all the top shooters shoot them, but I just can't see how upgrading would benefit. Anyway, so with having said that, I'll get into how it shot today, and I'll go from worst to first, as I always do. The first and the worst type that I tried, and this was actually given to me by somebody that we shoot together. So he was nice enough to lend me a box. Well, he didn't lend it to me, I traded it to him. But it's the Eley semi-auto Benchrest Outlaw. And I've seen several people shoot this. I don't really know how it works for them, but I'll show you the groups. It did not shoot well. It's going really fast, but the standard deviation was decent. So when I said I had north of 15,000 rounds in this rifle with zero issues, I shot two different types of Eley ammo today, and both boxes of Eley ammo I had issues with. This one, every second to third round that I shot, it didn't go off. It took 3 to 4 strikes of the ammo to go off, and some of them wouldn't even shoot, period. So I don't know. I got so frustrated. You can see I just stopped shooting because I'd have to. It wouldn't fire. You put it back in 2 or 3 more times, and the round still wouldn't go up. So I just threw them away because I don't really have time for ammo that doesn't go off when you pull the trigger. But there's that. The next one was my go-to ammo for when I shoot matches. Now, for my previous part 1 video, it wasn't the best at 50. It was the best at 100, so I kind of took the average of that. So it kind of gave me the best of both worlds. But today, I don't know what was going on. It didn't really shoot anything that well, and it was super cold. SK rifle match, and this is, I know it performs well. No matter what lot I take this from, no matter what box, it's always, anytime I chronograph it, on the nose at 1066. I mean, you can almost count on it. 50 round average is 1066 every single time. But today was a little different, and I don't know why. Everything I shot was going really fast. It was going 1088 with a standard deviation of 9.1, which is still pretty good for a 22. The average group size was 8.1, and again, it was at 55 yards is what I was shooting at today. But and this is why I was kind of hesitant on posting this stuff, because I know it shoots better than this, but this is just how I was shooting today. And I can't really pick and choose the days I get out and shoot. I just have to do it when I have time. But in my previous video, it was shooting way better than this at 100 yards. And this is my go-to stuff. But today, this is how it worked. Next. Lapua Polar Biathlon, and this stuff it's fairly expensive. I think it's like $13 or $14 a box, and everybody's like, well, you need to have like your Anschutz rifle that's going to shoot this well. Maybe that's true, I don't know. So here's the groups. Again, not very good. Going super fast. 11, 13. I mean, all these were cracking for the most part, and even though the standard deviation was still 7.8. Group size averaged 0.8. So I just don't know if the rifle doesn't shoot these well, or the weather conditions, or what. You fell down the steps again, sorry. For something that has that low of a standard deviation, you kind of expect it to shoot a little bit better, but again, maybe the rifle doesn't like it. I'm not really sure. This is the first time I've shot it out of this one. So for as expensive as this is, it was consistent, but I just don't think this rifle likes it. I mean, that 1.07, that's really bad. And there was some wind. I think that was a little bit of a factor, but not that much. So moving on. Another first ammo that I've tried out of this, I forgot to grab a box. It was SK Long Range. Ended up being lucky enough to find a brick of it. Again, moving really fast today. Everything that I chronographed that I know in the past has gone slower was really moving today. So 1110, again, standard deviations 7 feet per second. That's really good. I just don't know what was going on today. Weather conditions, and maybe this rifle just doesn't like it. But groups were 0.787. I mean, that's a lot of people say you need to get this out 100 and further, and that may be true. I just don't have a place to do that regularly that isn't crazy windy. I mean, even on the box it says it's supposed to be used past 100 yards. But like I said, I have a brick of it. I'm going to get out and try it 300 yards at least, and maybe do another video on how these all perform at 300 yards. But in today's conditions, it didn't work well for me. Another one that in my previous video was the best at 50. I think it was even shooting 0.3 groups at 50. Just to show you today how the conditions were really affecting this rifle. Here's the groups. It's getting a little better, but still, again, averaging 11-10. It's going real fast. They were all cracking. Group size is getting close to minute, but still not like the second one from the top on the right. That's how it shot previously. But yeah, I don't know. It's really strange to me because everybody talks about when the weather gets colder, at least with most stuff that's not labeled biathlon of some sort, really F's with the feet per second, and it goes way down. You know, everybody has to get their winter average for their ammo, but everything I shot today was going way faster. So 22 is a strange animal. Anyway, another one that I know works well, pretty much for everybody, it's Center-X. In my part 1 video, I shot this stuff, and it didn't particularly shoot it that well at 50 or 100, but I figure, again, I'm just testing out to see how it does in the cold weather. So here's how it did. This one was pretty consistent as far as feet per second goes, and it's really neat going from something that's, you know, breaking the sound barrier back down to subsonic, how quiet this switchback is. But the average group size is getting close to a minute. Real consistent. I mean, most of them are pretty much in the same spot. A little bit of wind in there, and I'm sure I was pulling it or pushing it or whatever, but not too bad. But Center-X, can't find this stuff. Pretty much the only stuff you can find is the real Gucci stuff like Tenex. So, and that's why I really only have a small sample size of ammo today, because I'm kind of running out and can't find anything anywhere. But it's good stuff. I think I got 500 rounds of this left, I'm not sure. So there's Center-X. So something that I'm glad worked out for the best ammo out of the lot that I tried today, being as cold as it was, and I didn't even know they made this, SK Biathlon Sport. I'm not sure if this is new or if it's been out for a while, or I just haven't really been looking for it, but let me show you how you did. So getting closer down to the feet per second that I like to shoot, it's like 1097, still a little bit faster, but the group size was like 5.7, pretty consistent. I think I might, for the next couple matches, switch to this stuff just to see how it does. The standard deviation was 7.8, and again, I'm kind of at a loss because everything was really consistent. Just wasn't shooting it that well today. Maybe it was me, I'm not really sure. Maybe it was conditions, but again, these are all at 55 yards. So anyway, that's all that I got to test today. My final thoughts for this video on this rifle is I would highly recommend the steel barrel version or the carbon version. I think you can find a steel barrel version, just the barreled action, for around $650, maybe a little bit cheaper other places, and I think they're fairly, you can find them pretty much in stock in most places. So if you don't have a huge budget for a Rim-X or a Voodoo or something like that, I think this is a very solid alternative. You know, with them being a 700 footprint and everything like that, I think that it's definitely worth a shot. Worst case scenario is you sell it on arms list to somebody and they can have a go at it. But anyway, so those are my thoughts for today. Love to hear from you guys. Drop a comment, whatever. And again, thanks for tuning in.